So Flipkart has come up with a new clothing store which is called Spoyl. And in today's conversation, we have Kabir from our Gizbot team and the team from Spoyl itself to give us a sneak peek and tell us what goes behind the scenes at Spoyl.
Thanks, Kabir. Thanks for having us here. A very good opportunity to talk to you about something which is very cool in the space of fashion and the technology, where we brought both tech and fashion to come together and created something very like something which we are really proud of. But before diving into what Spoyl is and why we are doing Spoyl, let me give you quick context about the whole fashion business and fashion business in e-commerce as well as fashion business on Flipkart. So first thing, from a size of the business, it's a pretty huge business when it comes to e-commerce as a whole. There are many platforms. There are very cool D2C platforms. There are platforms like us, which is a horizontal, and then there are vertical platforms. And each of them have a very peculiar role. Flipkart for long has been the place where the trend setting on what consumers are buying in a larger India, right? Not just urban markets, but larger tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities, what people are buying and what kind of garments people are buying, what kind of shoes people are buying, what kind of filters they use when they come to shop, what are their preferences on colors, what are their preferences on whether they are liking checks whether they are liking stripes in denims, whether they want flared denims or whether they want ribbed denims or regular fits, slim fits, etc., right? So this is where Flipkart actually, with tons of insights about consumers and consumers in the larger ecosystem, we have played a very pivotal role in the whole fashion industry. Now, as we were making every year, we were making strides in creating some or the other innovation. Last year, we introduced a lot of cool things. We introduced image search, we introduced voice search, we introduced a lot of features where consumers were able to play with the catalog. We had, say, 3D or a 360-degree view of a lot of our catalog, right? Then we brought in a lot of video-led elements into fashion, right? Each of these things were backed by a lot of intense KYCs, which we've done with consumers. And consumers at every point of time, they were telling us that, okay, hey, when we want to shop on e-commerce, the big advantage of e-commerce is it brings in like real infinite selection to consumers. So not just from brands, but from every part of the country, right? Directly from manufacturers sitting in Tirupur, Surat, Kolkata, Delhi, and at the same time, it brings in the ecosystem of both international as well as domestic brands. Now, in that world, the consumers were telling us that, okay, hey, when we shop on e-commerce, these are some of the problem statements. And if you were to bring in image search, if you were to bring in voice, or if you were to bring some of these elements around video, etc., it will be really cool. And we brought in all of that. Fast forward to this year, when we again went back to consumers, and actually before going back to the consumers, when we were looking at our data, we realized 25% of our shoppers are under the age of 25 years. And we started thinking that, okay, hey, are these consumers going to shop fashion, or for that matter, shop anything else on Flipkart in the same way as, say, millennials or, say, other consumer segment shop, right? Then the other big question was, when we think about under 25 or the Gen Z consumers, we are still talking about a larger India. And as Flipkart, we don't talk only to the urban markets. We don't talk to the Chandigarhs and the metros of the world, but we talk to a consumer segment which is in tier 2, tier 3. So is Gen Z, this notion of Gen Z, is it like playing out same across all markets? And we then dwelled into our KYCs, etc., and we realized Gen Z in Chandigarh, Gen Z in Ludhiana, Gen Z in Siliguri, Gen Z in Coimbatore, in a city in a very small town closer to Mangalore, in Nasik, in Indore. Consumers, they might buy some very different stuff, they might buy different brands, they might buy their taste might be here and there, but the way they think about fashion is pretty similar. And that's where actually brought us that, okay, this age group or this consumer segment is actually looking forward to use fashion to express themselves. And there's a lot of more meaning to than just looking good, right? It's the looking good, or whether the top wear is matching the bottom wear, that notion is not at all playing any role. Or whether they want to buy something which, say, a popular Bollywood star wore into a movie, that's not how they are thinking about it. They are thinking very wide. They think that, okay, if I am wearing a color, or if I am wearing a certain boxy fit, if I am wearing an oversized printed with a Metallica sign onto my t-shirt, I'm actually expressing my own identity. When I wear that like a loose t-shirt to my college, I'm actually telling my friends that okay, hey, I am into a heavy metal say, music and so on and so forth, right? So that's what was cutting across all markets, right? That's what was cutting across all those geographies. And then we started thinking about okay, what do we do differently? That's where the birth of Spoyl is. These consumers also told us when they look at Flipkart or when they look at any of the e-commerce platforms, they believe that the platforms are trying to sell to all consumers in a very similar, singular way. They don't want to click on a lot of buttons. They don't want to read through a lot of text. They actually believe into a lot of visual cues. So the size of images, etc., right? Bharat will tell you a lot more about this. So there was an angle of experience which we got from them. Then there was a lot of stuff which we got to know about how do they look at trends. Do they follow, as I said earlier, do they follow couple of few Bollywood stars, etc., or cricketers, or they actually look for trends at a very wider space? And we were like blown away that okay, these are consumers who are not just following people in India, but because of the social media space, they follow a lot of K-pop stars. They follow a lot of rappers out there in Europe as well as in South America and so on and so forth, right? And that's what their inspiration of fashion is. That's what led to us that okay, we need to build a trend spotting algorithm. We need to build tech around how do we bring trends not just from airport looks of celebrities, but also from a lot of stuff which social media influences basis what people are wearing generally onto the streets. We bring in all of those cues and then create trends out of it, then convert those trends into styles, then those styles are converted into garments, etc. Interesting part is, of course, like whatever I said sounds very complicated, right? I mean, how can you figure out all of what someone is wearing in Sao Paulo or in Brazil, or someone is wearing something in Mexico or Paris? How can you convert that very quickly and convert into a garment? Why would a seller or a brand in India convert, and they would ask you for minimum guarantees, they would ask you for guarantees whether those products will sell, etc. That's where the Flipkart seller ecosystem comes in, because we worked with that seller ecosystem for long years, and each of those sellers are pretty huge on Flipkart. They understand Flipkart insights, they understand the ways Flipkart sells products also. And then of course we were able to layer what the experience which we have built. We showed those experiences to the sellers and partners and gave them a lot of confidence that this is a very different game. This is not something which we are doing as one of the projects inside fashion. This is like a completely blown up, it starts at a very different level kind of project, right? Because of which the entire trend spotting as a tech converting into garments became possible. Today, there are closer to 1,000+ sellers who are working with us on this project, who are using our insights and creating garments. So, hence, what you see on Spoyl, the selection which you see in Spoyl, you will see that it's very different than regular Flipkart. And from there, what we've built, right? It's a pretty exciting first month for us with Spoyl. We've got a lot of feedback already. There's a lot of positive feedback. There's a lot of feedback which we've got on what do we want to improve also, what are the other more features which people are looking forward to. So working on a lot of that stuff. I think there is going to be a role in festive also. Then as we move towards December, when a lot of travel also comes in, right? So what role Spoyl plays there with consumers is going to be interesting. So very excited. Kabir, any questions you have specific around this? Happy to answer towards the later half. Priyanka or Bharat, if you would want to expand onto the whole experience bit.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sandeep. Kabir, I'll just quickly take you through like the consumer
Yeah.
research and how we thought of the product and design of this. So I lead product design, UXR engineering. This is one of those projects where it was done with a lot of love and intention, and I mean intention because we spent a lot of time actually doing consumer research, understanding what this specific cohort of customers want, right? And here are some very top highlights of what we understood. One is, like Sandeep said, their sense of fashion was basically they saw it as an extension of their personality. So they were expressing their personality through their lifestyle choices. Second is they almost always thought of their fashion sense as a vibe, right? They were expressing a vibe via the clothes that they were wearing, and it was important for them to be very trendy and ahead of the curve. And as Sandeep said, it's not like some actor or cricketer was wearing something, because OTT, social media platforms, they are pervasive now, right? So even before it catches on to like mainstream, the Gen Z is at the edge of it. They end up catching the trend and they want to be very, very different from the rest of the crowd. So trend was the second thing. The first was vibe, second was trend. The third, which was very, very interesting, was fairly gender agnostic. In the sense they don't care about menswear, women's wear. They actually preferred like gender agnostic clothes. So if you see our experience, you will see like a special unisex section. On the top, you'll have men, women, and then unisex. This comes directly from our consumer research. And if you see the experience, and I often say this, if Flipkart is kind of like, soft pop of the 80s or something like that, Spoyl is more heavy metal headbangers ball of the MTV, right? The color is very bold, very neon. This was very, very intentional, and it speaks to this cohort, right? If you go to the Spoyl page and you scroll, you will see the catalog organized as either vibes or in trends, like last week's trend, this week's trend, and all those things. The other thing is that these people are very, very visual. So if you see, the image sizes are much larger. There is not a whole lot of text. It's kind of communicated via like an image or a video based intuition. You see a lot of videos. It's infinite scroll, so it's almost like your regular social media platform, where they are actually scrolling a bunch of like internet famous people wearing like Gen Z clothes. It will give you that feel. If you go to the product page, reviews and ratings are more images and videos. There is a less text there, etc. So the entire experience of this world in which we wanted to immerse the Gen Z audience into, it fits their kind of ethos and ideals. That's the thing. So in summary, it's like it's vibes, it's trends, it's more visual content, it is more gender agnostic unisex content, and the experience is very, very kind of hutke or very, very different from your regular Flipkart experience. Kabir, like, we are happy to, Sandeep and I are happy to answer any questions.
So that was really insightful. And like, if I have to start with something, Flipkart already has Myntra under it, and that is like fashion oriented. Could Spoyl have been integrated into Myntra itself? Did you guys think about that? Like, will Spoyl have to compete with Myntra also? Because people also go there for their shopping needs, and it is all fashion oriented. Can you tell about it?
So first and foremost, from a role which fashion plays inside Flipkart, right? Now fashion as a category happens to be the engine of Flipkart. So it's not like a small business which Flipkart happens to do. It's an engine of Flipkart, right? So imagine everyone who's getting their first transaction on e-commerce or coming to the e-commerce bandwagon, be it someone in a tier 3 city or a consumer who's probably has got his or her first credit card. Most of them, right? And when I say most, it's like a pretty huge number. While I cannot get into the specifics, a pretty huge number, their first transaction is with fashion on Flipkart, right? Because it's for all obvious reasons, right? Fashion is a small ticket item. Fashion is something where the e-commerce problem solving is at a very big scale, right? You get access to a lot of selection, etc., right? So that's where fashion comes and plays a role. So between Flipkart, Myntra has its own strategy. Myntra does pretty great with whatever they are doing. But for Flipkart, fashion is a extremely, extremely important business, right? So in that world, when the conversation started around Spoyl, what do we do with Spoyl, or how do we build a Gen Z platform? It was pretty obvious that we need to build it on Flipkart, right? Because fast forward 10 years, 15 years, the size of fashion on Flipkart is going to be at a very, very different scale. And hence building it on Flipkart was a very obvious choice. The way to think about this is that there is a large consumer segment which talks to Flipkart in a very different way, right? Because we are getting consumers not just from urban markets, but across the country. A vertical platform always would have its own limitations with the consumers which they talk to, right? But whereas for a horizontal platform, the consumer segment is as horizontal as it can get, right? We talk to every kind of consumer, right? So building it on Flipkart is actually even more difficult, right? And hence signing up to a difficult task, building it right, getting it into the place. And as we say in our internal reviews also, we keep talking about it. Spoyl is not one of those things where there is a target which we have to achieve next month. Spoyl has been built keeping in mind next 5 years, next 10 years. So we will keep going at it. Say, for example, next month we realize that, okay, whatever numbers we were supposed to do in Spoyl, we are not doing. It's okay, because it's a commitment which we are making for a longer term, and we keep solving for it, right? So, Kabir, it's like more of it. The conversation never went into a Flipkart versus Myntra. Myntra has its own strategy. Myntra continues to do amazing work in the space which they are. Whereas Flipkart is supposed to figure out our own conversations, and that's where we made a choice that, okay, hey, this is to be built on Flipkart. Yeah. Anything, Bharat, you would want to add?
No, I think, Sandeep, you covered a lot. See, there is like a unique audience to Flipkart. to whom we also need to cater, and it's done independently. We are aware of the kind of audience that visit Flipkart, and we want to give them the best of experience. So that is the lens that we used.
That's great. And now, if I want to talk about the tech part of things, so like we all know that AI is booming right now. How do you guys using AI, or are you planning to use AI in Spoyl specifically?
Trend spotting, I think I anticipate AI to play a very huge role there. That's the first port of call, right? The moment you see a particular trend picking up, either within the Flipkart platform or outside in social media, or something is trending outside, increasingly AI will play a major role in identifying that, because Flipkart not only has a unique role in terms of getting consumers to explore different trends, but we also want to know which trend is actually being kind of exploited by consumers. And I say exploited, I mean which is being, they're going deep. They are just not browsing. Now they like it. It's catching fire, right? We need to also identify that. So we need to be part of the trend, give enough chances for a particular set of catalog to catch fire and like sell like hotcakes. At the same time, identify elsewhere whether it is like selling like hotcakes through social media, and like bring that to the Flipkart platform. So in both places, AI will play a major role. Also in terms of catalog creation, like different styles in videos and images, AI will continue to play a major role. Also in terms of helping people understand size and fit, the role is only going to grow more and more, Kabir, as time passes.
Quick addition to what Bharat said,
Mm.
right? Just imagine the world wherein, as Bharat pointed out earlier, in the UGC, in the user-generated content, in reviews and ratings, we are getting tons of images which consumers are clicking, right? So Kabir, imagine you bought an oversized t-shirt and you wore that oversized t-shirt into one of your reviews, or you wore that to one of outdoor setting. Yeah. Figuring this out using AI, that okay, hey, where this particular garment can be worn, and then so mining the images which the consumers are sending and figuring out intelligent text out of it and adding that to catalog. Today, if you go to Flipkart, you will find something that occasions where something this can be worn, right? It is pretty generic, right? So we believe AI can play a massive role into that. Okay, hey, closer to December, a lot of our catalog should say that okay, you can wear this to Goa, you can wear this to vacation to hills, right? So a lot of that work is something which we believe AI can actually enable us. A lot of thought process is going into there, and behind the scenes, a lot of work already has started on it. Yeah.
So apart from AI, like have you guys also thought of using AR or VR tech? Like there have been cases of virtual trial rooms, and like Gen Z wants to have visual cues for everything and getting to try something virtually, like how some platforms do it. Will Spoyl adopt something like this?
So in Flipkart platform, we already have virtual try-ons. We have AR, VR for people to actually look at beauty products, especially for women, look at different shades of lipstick and all, and makeup products. So that is already there. So it's just a matter of time where a Spoyl is just launched. Quickly, all the greatness or goodness that is available in Flipkart platform will start to become available in Spoyl.
And also like down the line, does Spoyl also plan to create its own apparels? Because like Spoyl actually sounds cool. So like you guys can also capitalize on that name and like create something cool out of that, like your own apparels.
It's a very interesting question. Honestly, I don't know honestly right now the legalities around the brand and everything. But as you said, it's a very interesting name, right? So maybe if there are brands, because end of the day we are a marketplace platform, so brands and sellers they create merchandise, they pick, right? So a brand, if they were to reach out to us and if they were to wanting to use Spoyl as a word in their merchandise, etc., we can evaluate a lot of that. As of today, there is nothing which we are wanting to. But since Spoyl also happens to be a name which actually can be used in different ways, it can be used as an adjective, can be used as a verb, etc. So in that world, there could be some merchandise which is already out there. Honestly, Kabir, thanks for giving that thought, by the way. So yeah, it's a good fact to think about in future.
You guys were talking about gender agnostic shopping. So you also have that unisex panel in the UI. So how do you promote diversity and inclusion in fashion? If there is someone size XXL, she may find it difficult to find the latest products which are not yet available in those sizes. Are you guys planning to address that issue?
I'll quickly take from a supplier point of view, right? There's one concentrated effort which we're doing in Flipkart Fashion. I'm expanding it to Flipkart Fashion because your question is important for not just Spoyl, but overall fashion, right? And the entire industry has to embrace this as a point, right? So what we're doing actively in Flipkart Fashion is our data tells us that these 100,000 styles are actually doing very well on Flipkart, and these 100,000 styles, they come from say 20,000 sellers. I'm just giving hypothetical numbers to you, but imagine the situation: 100,000 styles which come from 20,000 sellers, and they sell very well on Flipkart. And then we actually go and look at what all sizes the sellers have enabled for this selection. Wherever we find that they have not enabled, say, plus sizes, or they have not enabled, say, very small sizes, right? There is active work which happens with each of these sellers to go back and enable all of that selection. It's more of a chicken and egg, because see, end of the day, the sellers or the manufacturers, they believe that, okay, if they produce something, they don't want to get stuck with dead inventory, right? They don't want to get, because at the end of the day, fashion, if you think, imagine fashion is only the biggest problem of fashion is stuck inventory, right? So no seller, no manufacturer would want to do this without you having right insights into it. And that's where we step in and we give them enough and more insights that, okay, every day, every month, this is how consumers look at it. This is what, not every product needs to have plus sizes. That's also important, right? There are unique products, there are specific products which are data tells us that, okay, there are consumers who come look for, they click on some of these products, and then when they look at sizes and they don't find a 3XL or a 4XL, that's when they drop off, right? So taking those insights and building that selection is something which we are doing, right? Another part on diversity, etc., also is how do you explore or how do you make colors? Because if you think about it, India for large time, or India for good time now, has been operating with core colors only. And whenever, just imagine men wearing pink shirts or men wearing lilac has been looked upon that, okay, hey, you are wearing something very different today, right? How do you make that regular? How do you make that a part of your day-to-day lives, right? As well as same as for women wearing whatever they want to wear, right? So how do you get this? How do you make this look regular? And what I mean by that regular is, when you're cataloging something, do you need to use very sophisticated images, or whether can you use real images? That's one track which we are working on. How do you make user generated content hero of some of this catalog, right? So that people feel that, okay, hey, I can see so many people wearing a pink shirt to their office, or pink t-shirt to something where they want to, or someone wearing an off-shoulder top to their work, right? When people see some of that, they feel that, okay, this is regular, and that gives you a lot of confidence. So a lot of work is happening on that. From an experience point of view, Bharat, you would want to add something which we're working on?
No, all excellent points, Sandeep. Just one, I'll pick one or two, just two important things here. See, if Kabir, if he just saw data or statistics, right, something like the unisex tab will not have come about, because it's counterfactual, right? You have to predict, you have to create that demand, and this is where consumer insights and user experience testing becomes very, very important. Kind of acts, it's the qualitative aspect to a quantitative data, and you find out that this is what people want. And we do plan to actually go towards these plus sizes that you talked about, the triple XS and XLs and all those things, because normally they won't be reflected by data. It's consumer research which will tell us on the reasons why people may not have chosen to buy when they open the app in a particular time. We would find this out, and that is how we plan to systematically approach this. The second point is around diversity. Diversity, there are like the usual things of diversity that we think about, but within Gen Z itself, there is a spectrum of people who are very conscious about fashion, follow the trends, etc. If you have seen the Devil Wears Prada movie, right, there are a set of people who actually don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about this. They are basically saying, I want to look good, but I don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about this. And then she will say there is an exact fashion line designed just for people like you. So we also want, I mean, this is our first step. Likely our future steps will be addressing this sort of diversity as well, because in Gen Z you will have this category of people as well.
That's great. Just a last question. Any exclusive Spoyl features which will set it apart? Or like, do you want to bring some of Flipkart's features to there? Can you give us a sneak peek of what we can expect from Spoyl in the future?
I think some of the things that we talked about, one is the increasing role that AI would play, both in terms of trend spotting and see, we've had a very careful custom value proposition with Spoyl. Before widening the surface area, we want to go deep to make sure this sticks with the first kind of hypothesis that we have made. More kind of variety of images, videos. So the AI will play a great role here, encouraging more people to actually provide user review through images and videos, and that will play a major role. and things that you talked about, which are virtual try-ons, usage of AR, VR in this space. Those are all like immediate low-hanging fruits that we can bring from Flipkart. Those are the next immediate things that we'll be doing, Kabir. Sandeep, any thoughts from your side?
The end of the day, I think there are synergies between what we've built for Flipkart and what we already have in Spoyl. There will be a couple of things which will keep. Maybe one of those things could be, how do you figure out the role of swipes, right? So today, a lot of Flipkart, what you do on Flipkart is basis clicks. You have to click on a button called add to cart or buy now, etc. Right? If Gen Z believes in swiping on Instagram, when they browse reels, they are swiping up. On a lot of other platforms, they are swiping right and left. Right? From that sense, what could be role of swipes inside Flipkart is something which you can potentially see in future happening on Flipkart also. Other than that, I think a lot of selection-led changes which we'll do, we'll keep adding a lot of collabs, we'll bring in a lot of purpose-driven stuff also. There's a role of sustainability also which is there, because Gen Z is also very driven by some of these missions on how do you make a lot of ethical fashion also, this entire space of Gen Z. Those kind of things you can definitely look forward to. And then last, I think we'll keep going back to our consumers every month, because what we've done with Spoyl launch is 95% of what we were able to listen from our consumers. So every month we go back to our consumers. If we figure out new insights about what they would look forward for Spoyl to even say offer, we keep building onto it. Some things might happen in a month's time, something might take 6 months, but that's what the intent would be.
I can vision of Spoyl as a social media dedicated for fashion. Sounds really good.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine, Kabir, that okay, there's a big responsibility which Flipkart has. We are taking that responsibility in a very serious way. That okay, it's not just about doing business; it's about also making sure that okay, you are setting right trends. You are actually enabling your suppliers with ethical practices, etc., etc. So that's the space in which we are operating. Hopefully, this allows us to be at the pole position in the whole industry also. Looking at us and the work which we are doing, we are also hoping and looking forward that a lot of other retailers in the ecosystem also start doing something similar that allows us to create a community of its sorts, right? Which actually makes the whole industry in a far more healthier and a better shape. Yeah.
This was really great. I got to know a lot about Spoyl, and it was really interesting to talk with you guys.
And we thank you for buying on Spoyl, and we keep getting you back every 15, 20, 30 days. Spread the word for us. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.